The FBI just found out a shocking secret in Whoopi Goldberg's house that even experienced agents were shocked by. Why did they break into the famous actress's home? What's being kept secret behind those closed doors? The most important question is why the public has never known the truth. Everything we thought we knew about Goldberg has been changed by the new proof we found. This is only the beginning of the story. If you go to the area where Whoopi Goldberg's house is, the street lights are so dim in the early morning that you can hear the sound of leaves lightly hitting the ground. That peace was broken this morning by the sound of roaring engines, hurried footsteps, and a tense environment that you could cut with a knife. It was only 5 a.m. The sun wasn't up yet. People in the neighborhood were still asleep, but there were a few older people who got up early to go for walks, but they knew right away that something was very wrong. A group of black SUVs without license plates came out of nowhere and moved slowly but steadily. As the men in black suits, protective vests, and sunglasses got out of their cars, they didn't say a word. Quickly, they circled Whoopi Goldberg's house and blocked all the doors so no one could get in or out. Then a bang, bang, bang. Early in the morning, the knock on the door sounded like thunder. There wasn't any sensitivity or doubt. Not every visit was like this. It was a raid. A light shone from an upstairs window, which meant that the owner of the mansion had woken up. Someone moved inside the mansion. People all over the United States know Whoopi Goldberg as the woman who has been through all of Hollywood's ups and downs, but has never been in a situation like this. The big wooden door slowly opened, and there she was. Even though she had just woken up, Whoopi kept her normal cool. She was dressed in a light gray robe, and her hair was loose. A group of agents stood at the door, and she looked at them all. There wasn't any fear, there was just some shock and uncertainty. "What's going on?" It was a quiet but sharp voice. One of the agents walked up, showed their FBI badge, and then took a file out of a black suitcase. "We have permission to search. This is a federal investigation." That statement was like a bomb exploding in the morning mist. As soon as the door opened, the agents quickly entered, taking over the space inside the mansion. The neighbors, who had begun to gather out of curiosity, now stood in groups, gossiping. Who would have thought? Whoopi Goldberg! A middle-aged woman shook. "Hey, there is an investigation." That statement went off like a bomb in the mist of morning. The agents quickly took over the space inside the house as soon as the door opened. The neighbors had started to gather because they were interested, and now they were standing in groups and chatting. "What did you think? Hey, Whoopi Goldberg!" A woman in her 40s shook her head in shock. "She's very famous? What does she have to do with the FBI?" someone else whispered. The talk, on the other hand, made things worse. Some reporters heard about what was going on and quickly rushed to the scene, raising their cameras to get every detail. Police from the area were also sent to keep the crowd under control. They put up barriers so that no one could get too close to the house area. Flashes from cameras kept flickering and bouncing off the windows of the FBI car, making the scene chaotic and dramatic. At the same time, a thorough search was going on inside the fancy house. The agents split up into groups, and each group was given a clear job. They looked in every room, opened every box, and moved every book on the shelf to make sure they didn't miss anything. Whoopi crossed her arms and stood still in the middle of the living room. People were going through her house, and she never took her eyes off of them. One thing she knew, the FBI didn't just show up at her door. But the question was why? What made them think she was guilty? When the agent came up to her, they looked her straight in the eye and asked, "Would you like us to call your lawyer?" Someone took a big breath and said, "I agree, that's the right thing to do." No one was sure what the FBI was looking for, but it was clear that they had a very important reason for doing this raid. A drawer in Whoopi's personal library was being carefully opened by some agents wearing white gloves. She saved a lot of important papers here, like scripts, contracts, and letters she had written over the years. One of the agents took out a stack of papers and slowly turned each page. Another group was checking the basement on the other side of the house, which isn't often seen. Each item in the old dusty boxes was carefully looked at. Then all of a sudden, an agent yelled, "I think we found something!" Right away, the whole FBI team in the house came together. From a secret spot, a metal box was taken out. That thing was locked and hadn't been opened in years. Whoopi, who was not far away, narrowed her eyes. She slowly said, "I've never seen that box before." The agents looked at each other and quickly took the box outside. They didn't open it right away. Instead, they carefully sealed it up and moved it to a special truck. After looking for hours, the FBI finally left the house. They didn't tell the press anything. There were no official comments made, There were still questions that needed to be answered, and a famous actress stood in her home full of doubt. The crowd outside started to break up, but the stories kept going around. Right away, newspaper headlines showed up. The FBI comes to the home of Whoopi Goldberg. What's going on? The FBI found what kinds of lies in Whoopi's house. Everyone in America was waiting for answers, but only people who were part of the investigation knew what was really going on. That truth might make everything different. There has always been trouble with Whoopi Goldberg. As one of Hollywood's most recognizable faces, she has had many highs and lows in her career, from huge successes on the big screen to harsh abuse for her political views. Things are very different this time, though. There is more to this than just a TV debate or a negative magazine story. The FBI isn't concerned because of statements that could cause trouble. They are looking into her very carefully. The raid on Whoopi Goldberg's house did not happen out of the blue. People who work for the government know that the FBI will never search someone without enough proof. It brings up a big question. How long have they watched Whoopi? A lot of people inside the FBI say that they have been watching the star for months. One thing is for sure, no one knows for sure what they are looking for. This is a big deal. Federal organizations don't waste time on cases that aren't important. They must really think that something very bad is going on if they have given a search warrant. But the most important question is still, why was Whoopi Goldberg a target? Some lawyers think this might be a review into money matters. In the past few years, a lot of famous people have been arrested for tax problems or doing shady business. But why does the FBI look so stressed if it's just a tax matter? Why would they send a group of armed police to the house of an old actress? Is there something else going on that makes you fret? Whoopi Goldberg has been in show business for decades and has always been closely watched by the people. She's not afraid to say what she thinks, even if it could get her in trouble. Some people don't like what she said on The View, where she was a co-host for many years. She was one of the most controversial people in the entertainment business because she had heated arguments with guests and said controversial things about politics and society. But Whoopi has been in a lot of trouble in the past, but this is the first time she has really been in danger of losing her job. As soon as people heard about the raid, there were a lot of theories on social media. There were a lot of posts about Whoopi Goldberg on Reddit, Twitter, and TikTok. Some people thought there was just a mistake. Some people came up with crazy ideas about what the FBI could be looking into. The journalists didn't pass up this chance. Every newspaper started to have shocking titles. Hollywood was stunned. The FBI comes to the home of Whoopi Goldberg. What's going on? One of the best actors in America is being looked into. Could this be the end of her job? Late-night talk shows even talked a lot about what happened. Hosts like Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert made mocking comments about the event. But those jokes were based on a truth that couldn't be denied. There was a big problem with Whoopi Goldberg's image. The FBI did not make any public statements when they left Whoopi Goldberg's home. There was no charge sheet, no indictment, and no reason for the strange box they took away. But their silence made the story more exciting. Fans of Whoopi thought this might be the end of her famous career. If the probe went on, she could lose advertising contracts, movie invites, and even her job on The View. At the same time, her opponents were happy. Some people who didn't like her started writing mean pieces, saying it was punishment for controversial things she had said in the past. There's no doubt that Whoopi Goldberg is strong, though. Whoopi finally spoke out a few days after the raid. When she went on a special show of The View, she seemed calm, but there was anger in her eyes that she couldn't hide. I understand what you mean. I've heard everything, but let me make this clear. I'm not hiding anything. She didn't say much about the investigation, but it was clear what she wanted to say. She wasn't going to let this mess up her job or reputation. But would what she said stop the rumors? The FBI hasn't said anything about the case yet, so it's still a mystery. What is really going on is now the question. Still more important, can Whoopi Goldberg handle this? As the FBI officers walked into Whoopi Goldberg's fancy home, there was a thick silence. The dim light from flashlights lit up every corner, every bookcase, and every picture that was hung just right. But they couldn't see what they were looking for. Deep in the secrets of this house, it was hidden. As the search went on, an agent saw something strange on the wall behind the office. Along the bottom of the wall, there was a small groove that was hard to see. At first, it looked like a normal piece of decor, but when an agent touched it by mistake, a loud click could be heard in the quiet room. The task group as a whole stopped. They looked at the wall. One of the agents who knew how to find secret rooms knelt down and ran his hand along the groove. There was another click, but this time there was a strange change that went along with it. As part of the wall started to move, a small door that wasn't shown on the plans for the mansion came up. The agents quickly looked at each other. There was something hidden behind that door. They pulled out their guns in a tense moment, ready for anything that could happen. The door opened into a small passageway that led to a dark basement. Inside, the air was thick and smelled musty, like it hadn't been touched in years. After that, they came in. The secret room was different from every other room in the house. The room was dark and had only dusty wooden shelves and an old table in the middle. The tall stacks of metal boxes in a corner really caught the agent's eye, though. Each box was tightly closed and looked like it had not been opened in years. The first box was opened by an agent. There were many old papers inside, many of which were marked confidential. Some of the papers were yellow from age, but the information they held was still there. Another agent looked through these papers and saw right away that some of the names were familiar. They were of powerful people in politics and the entertainment business. Not these papers, though. That was the most shocking thing. At the bottom of the box was something that looked like an old letter. It was written by hand on thick parchment paper and sealed with red wax. This letter had been around for at least 30 years. But the sender really shocked the FBI. The seal had a unique design on it that had been used in a big case that the FBI had never been able to solve. The head agent carefully took the letter in his hands and looked at every stroke. The sender didn't write their full name on T found in another part of it. The truth was never meant to be known if this letter is found. The words were hard to understand and seemed to have been written for someone in the future or to warn someone. The question was how this letter got to the home of Whoopi Goldberg. The FBI thought it had something to do with a strange case from many years ago that they had never talked about in public because of the wax seal and the letter's content. Some insiders said that this case had something to do with one of the biggest scandals in Hollywood history, the abduction of a famous actress that has never been found. This is a secret that those in power are trying to keep from the public. The most important question, though, was whether or not Whoopi Goldberg knew about this room. Did she know about these secret papers? Or was it something she had by accident and didn't know it? The FBI was aware that they couldn't take things too quickly. These papers could be important proof for a case that has been forgotten for a long time, or they could reveal a truth that many people wanted to hide. But there was one thing that was sure. There was still more to find out. The secret room was quickly made public. The news media jumped on the story, competing to be the first to report this new find. The FBI finds a secret hidden in Whoopi Goldberg's house. What did she hide? There are all kinds of ideas, from stories that make sense to crazy conspiracy theories. Some people thought that Whoopi Goldberg might know something important about a Hollywood secret. Some people even thought there might be a bigger plot going on here. There was no doubt that Whoopi Goldberg was now more than just a popular actress. She was at the center of